I want you to just try and picture something for a second. Imagine a moment of just supreme, absolute confidence.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Right, like you're standing in front of, I don't know, thousands of people, tens of thousands of screaming people, and you loudly declare exactly how you're going to win. You call your shot.
Like Babe Ruth pointing to the fences.
Exactly like that. But then it backfires.
Okay.
And not just a little bit. It backfires in the most spectacular, immediate, public way possible. It's basically the ultimate nightmare scenario for the human ego.
Yeah, that pre-announced failure takes a really special kind of situational tragedy because, I mean, we all harbor that innate fear of public humiliation.
Totally.
But actively inviting it on national television, that elevates the psychology of the moment into something entirely different. It's fascinating.
And that exact anatomy of a disaster is what we are unpacking today. Welcome to our deep dive. Today we've got this really comprehensive Wikipedia article detailing the 2003 NFC wildcard playoff game. This is the Seattle Seahawks against the Green Bay Packers.
Played on January 4th, 2004, just to get the timeline straight.
Right, early 2004. And our mission today is to look way beyond the 10 seconds of audio that went incredibly viral. This is before going viral was even really a massive concept.
Yeah, we're not just rattling off box scores here.
No, definitely not.
It's vital to establish up front that we're looking at the underlying architecture of this moment. We're dissecting the chess match, the deeply intertwined histories of the people on the sidelines, and really what this saga teaches you about that razor-thin line between ultimate glory and just crushing defeat.
Exactly. Because to truly understand why this specific game still lives rent-free in the heads of football fans decades later, we have to look at the narrative stakes. And the best dramas, they always feature a protagonist facing their past.
Always. It's classic storytelling.
Right. So setting the scene here, going into this wildcard matchup, both the Seahawks and the Packers had finished the regular season with identical records, 10-6.
But the Packers secured the home field advantage.
Yes, and January in Wisconsin means Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra.
And the environmental conditions, I mean, they're basically a character in their own right here.
Yeah.
The source notes the temperature at game time was 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, 20 degrees.
Yeah, 20 degrees, cloudy, with a chance of snow. And the Packers were favored by 7 points. But, the tactical advantage of playing at home in that extreme cold, that's really only one layer of the pressure cooker.
Right, because the real spice of this deep dive, the thing that elevates it from just a standard cold football game to an absolute Hollywood script, is the personnel. The web of relationships here is just fascinating.
It really is.
You have the Seahawks head coach, Mike Holmgren. He didn't just casually coach the Packers in a past life. He was their head coach and general manager.
He resurrected that franchise.
Exactly. He led them to incredible success, won a Super Bowl, and then resigned after the 1998 season to take over in Seattle.
So Holmgren is essentially returning to the kingdom he built. He installed the offensive system in Green Bay. He trained their personnel. He established their winning culture. And going back to face the team you literally created introduces this massive schematic challenge.
Because you know all their weaknesses?
Right, but they also know all your foundational strategies. It becomes this game of infinite regress, knowing that they know that you know.
I love that. And the on-field manifestation of that dynamic is the Seahawks starting quarterback, Matt Hasselbeck.
Oh, this is where it gets really good.
Hasselbeck was the backup quarterback in Green Bay for the 1999 and 2000 seasons. He was the literal understudy to Brett Favre. Holding the clipboard, taking notes before being traded to Seattle.
The dynamic is just brilliant to think about.
Okay, let's unpack this with an analogy. It's like going back to your high school reunion to show off your successful new business, right? But your former boss and the guy who trained you are standing by the punch bowl just waiting to critique your pitch. The psychological weight of that has to be staggering.
That analogy perfectly captures the acute pressure Hasselbeck was under. I mean, he is stepping onto the frozen grass of Lambeau Field, needing to prove definitively that he's a franchise quarterback in his own right.
Right.
And the shadow of Brett Favre looms incredibly large. Favre isn't just a player in Green Bay. He is practically a demigod in that stadium. So Hasselbeck had to decouple his identity from being Favre's apprentice.
And that emotional weight, it translated directly onto the field. It manifested as this incredibly tense, just back-and-forth slugfest. It proved how evenly matched these two 10-6 teams actually were.
Yeah, it wasn't a blowout by any means.
No, it becomes a grueling battle of attrition. It eventually gets tied up 27-27 with a mere 51 seconds left in regulation.
And the stat lines reflect a game played at the absolute extremes of offensive philosophy.
Yeah.
On one side, you have Brett Favre throwing for 319 yards.
Which is a huge day.
Huge. And he threw a touchdown pass to Bubba Franks, which, according to the source, actually broke Dan Marino's record. It was Favre's 14th straight playoff game with a passing touchdown.
That's just wild.
It's a monumental achievement. It speaks to his sustained aerial dominance.
Oh, but see, the aerial game was only half the story. The ground game was trading heavy, heavy blows. The Seahawks running back, Shaun Alexander, had 3 rushing touchdowns.
3 of them.
Yeah, and the Packers running back, Amon Green, had 2. And here is the fascinating detail. All 5 of those rushing touchdowns were from the 1-yard line.
All 5.
All 5. Now, looking at that stat line, 5 different 1-yard touchdowns, it's really easy to assume these defenses were just incredibly sloppy in the red zone, right?
Sure.
Like, if you're giving up that many scores right at the goal line, it feels like the defensive lines were just getting completely bullied and giving up easy points.
Well, I would actually push back on the idea that it was sloppy defense.
Really? How so?
In many ways, it's the exact opposite. Because giving up a 1-yard run means the defense successfully prevented the explosive 20-yard pass into the end zone.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. They forced the opposing offense to grind out every single inch of the field until there was literally no more field left. It's brutal. Trench warfare. You have massive linemen colliding on every snap, fighting for leverage in 20-degree temperatures.
Ouch.
Yeah, that kind of defensive stand requires a massive physical toll, even if it ultimately results in a score.
That completely reframes the entire pace of the game for me, because if every drive is this grinding, agonizing march down the field, ending in a multi-pile collision at the goal line, the cumulative fatigue by the fourth quarter would be astronomical.
Oh, absolutely.
And we actually see the consequences of that fatigue bubbling up in the source material, because physical exhaustion almost always precedes mental fatigue. When your body is pushed way beyond its limits, especially in extreme cold where your core is expending massive energy just to stay warm, your cognitive processing speed just drops.
You start making mistakes. And we see that cognitive degradation in the sheer messiness of the regulation play.
Right.
The sources highlight 3 separate fumbles, 2 of which actually had to be overturned by instant replay. And you have Mike Holmgren attempting to challenge a crucial 4th-and-1 conversion by Amon Green, but he's denied by the officials because of incredibly tight margins.
It's a game defined by microscopic errors and tremendous physical friction,
Exactly.
which all culminates in the Packers having a chance to win it all in regulation. Their kicker, Ryan Longwell, lines up for a potential game-winning field goal at the very end of the fourth quarter.
The tension must have been unbelievable.
It's the moment where all that tension could just be resolved, right? He kicks it, and he misses.
Unbelievable.
The scoreboard stays locked at 27-all.
Sending a shocked, freezing crowd and 2 completely exhausted rosters into sudden death overtime. That missed field goal acts as a pressure cooker. Instead of the game ending, all of the unresolved narrative tension gets violently pushed into an overtime period where literally a single mistake ends your season.
And that exhaustion, those missed opportunities at the end of regulation, they're the perfect recipe for what happens next. It creates this massive, almost chemical overcompensation of adrenaline at the overtime coin toss.
The climax.
The climax, exactly. The Seahawks win the toss. And Matt Hasselbeck, who is completely amped up, leans in and proclaims directly into the referee's live microphone, "We want the ball and we're going to score."
It is blasted through the stadium speakers at Lambeau Field.
Yep.
And broadcast to millions of people watching at home on Fox. The sheer audacity of it is just striking.
It really is. But here's the most fascinating detail from our deep dive. The part that always gets lost in the mythology of this game.
What's that?
The disaster wasn't immediate.
Right.
People talk about this game as if Hasselbeck said the quote, "walked to the line of scrimmage and immediately threw the game away on the very next play."
Like instant karma.
Exactly. But that's entirely false. The Seahawks get the ball, and they actually go 3 and out. They have to punt.
The Packers then get the ball, and they also go 3 and out and have to punt.
It's a slow burn.
It is. We are deep into overtime. Tensions are astronomical. The cold is biting harder, and Seattle gets the ball back for their second drive of the extra period.
And this is where the tactical chess match really comes to a head. Seattle gets pushed into a tough spot. It's 3rd down, and they need 11 yards for a first down.
A very obvious passing situation.
Right. So Hasselbeck lines up. The Packers defense decides to dial up the pressure, and they show a blitz. Hasselbeck reading the defense, audibles. He changes the play at the line of scrimmage to counter the blitz.
A very standard quarterback move.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
But a Packers cornerback named Al Harris recognizes the audible. He jumps the route intended for receiver Alex Bannister, intercepts the ball at midfield, and returns it 52 yards for a walk-off game-winning touchdown. 33-27, Packers win.
It is a stunning, instantaneous reversal of fortune. And to understand how that happened, we need to dive deep into the mechanics of the audible itself.
Let's do it.
Because an audible is a double-edged sword. When a quarterback changes the play at the line, he has to communicate that change to his entire offense using a series of hand signals or code words or cadence changes.
Right.
The problem is the defense is watching and listening to those exact same signals.
And this is where the preparation comes in. Here's where it gets really interesting. Harris recognizing that audible, it is exactly like playing a ridiculously hard video game, boss.
Oh, I love this comparison.
Right. You fight them, you get knocked down, but you start recognizing their attack pattern. You realize that before they do their sweeping strike, their left shoulder always dips.
The tell.
The tell. And when the stakes are highest, they do the tell, and you hit the parry button at the absolute perfect millisecond to win the game.
That pattern recognition is the invisible battleground of professional football. During the week leading up to the game, defensive backs like Al Harris, they spend countless hours in the film room.
Just studying everything.
Everything. They aren't just watching the ball. They are studying receiver splits, how wide a receiver stands from the offensive line. They are memorizing the quarterback's hand signals. What's fascinating here is that Hasselbeck's bold claim wasn't inherently wrong, but his failure was a tactical one.
Right. It wasn't a failure of confidence. It was a failure born of repetition.
Precisely. By changing the play at the line, Hasselbeck essentially tipped his hand to a defense that had been studying his tells all week. He was trying to outsmart the blitz, but he ended up giving them the blueprint to his own defeat.
It's wild. When Hasselbeck saw the blitz coming on that 3rd and 11, he checked into a specific quick passing play designed to beat the blitz. But our sources note that Al Harris had seen that exact audible with those exact signals earlier in the game.
Earlier in that very same game.
Yeah. Harris utilized active recall in the highest pressure moment imaginable. When he saw Hasselbeck give the signal, Harris didn't backpedal. He planted his foot and drove forward to the exact spot he knew the ball was going to be thrown. He totally baited the quarterback.
It is a phenomenal example of the student trying to outsmart the master's defense, only to realize the defense had already memorized his cheat sheet.
Exactly. Hasselbeck thought he was out-chessing the blitz, but Harris was already 3 moves ahead based on pure film study and in-game awareness. And, the mental fortitude it takes to abandon your defensive assignment and jump a route in sudden death overtime,
Yeah.
it is staggering.
Because if he misses.
If Harris is wrong, Bannister likely touches the pass and runs for a game-winning touchdown himself. Hasselbeck looks like a genius.
It's a massive gamble that paid off.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the echoes of that hubris. A walk-off touchdown in overtime ends the game immediately. The unique theatrical nature of this specific play, the hot mic declaration followed by the fatal interception, it cemented this game's place in NFL lore forever.
Oh, absolutely.
It drastically altered the legacy of everyone involved.
And the historical significance of the play is statistically profound. According to the data, this was the first defensive touchdown to ever win an overtime playoff game in NFL history.
Wait, really? The first ever?
The first ever. It was an entirely unprecedented way to end a postseason game, and it rightfully earned Al Harris the NFL Defensive Player of the Week honors.
And the legacy of that single play has only grown over time. When the NFL compiled a list of the 100 greatest plays in games, this was in honor of its 100th anniversary, this game was ranked as the 72nd greatest game in history.
That's amazing.
And Al Harris's interception return was ranked as the 86th greatest play in NFL history. It is etched in stone as a defining moment of the sport.
Yet, the NFL remains a remarkably unforgiving environment, because the irony here is that the Packers' glory from this monumental victory was incredibly short-lived.
Oh, painfully short-lived.
They rode this massive emotional high into the divisional round the very next week against the Philadelphia Eagles, only to lose in another famous, heartbreaking overtime game, the infamous 4th and 26 game.
Right.
The euphoria of the Hasselbeck interception just evaporated in 7 days.
It really emphasizes how fleeting success can be. The emotional pendulum swings violently in professional sports, and the psychological hangover from a game like the one we were discussing today, I mean, it can linger for years.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? When we make a bold declaration at work or in our personal lives and we fail publicly, how do we carry that?
It's a heavy burden.
It is. But the source material actually gives us a hilarious detail about how Hasselbeck eventually learned to handle the weight of this infamous mistake.
Oh, this story is great.
Fast forward to 2017, Hasselbeck is working as a broadcaster, and he returns to Lambeau Field for a segment on Monday Night Countdown. He gets to his hotel room and finds an autographed photo of Al Harris's interception hidden in his room.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there. So he leaves, comes back later, and finds another photo. He realizes it's a prank being pulled on him by the broadcasting crew, but instead of getting defensive or upset, he actually autographs the photo himself. He learned to own it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows us how sports culture, and really just human culture, processes failure. This single play didn't ruin Matt Hasselbeck's career.
No, not at all.
He went on to play for many more years and found great success, but it became a load-bearing pillar of the entire Packers-Seahawks rivalry. It proves that sometimes the mistakes we make in our pursuit of greatness actually outlive our quiet successes.
That is so true.
We remember the spectacular failures because they are so deeply human. We relate to the overconfidence, and we fear the resulting crash.
The humanity of the mistake is exactly what makes it immortal. The perfection of an undefeated season is admirable, sure, but the vulnerability of boldly declaring victory into a live microphone only to throw a pick six.
It's poetry.
It is. It's relatable drama. It's a Greek tragedy played out on frozen grass. So, to wrap up this deep dive, we started with a tangled web of former mentors and ambitious backups. We saw them drag each other through a freezing, bone-crushing, one-yard line slugfest.
A total war of attrition.
And it all culminated in the most infamous hot mic moment and defensive walk-off in playoff history. A moment of absolute tactical genius by Al Harris and unforgettable hubris by Matt Hasselbeck.
It really is a true masterclass in the unpredictable, intensely psychological nature of live sports. The variables of extreme weather, complex offensive schemes, and human ego, they all collided to create an incredibly singular moment.
They really did. But before we go, I want to leave you with a completely different angle to chew on, looking at this through a modern lens, because this game happened in 2004, right? A time when a viral moment meant SportsCenter replays and water cooler talk.
Right, pre-social media.
Exactly. But imagine if this exact sequence happened today. If you were Matt Hasselbeck looking back decades later, would you take back the quote? It leaves you wondering, in the era of instant memification and relentless internet scrutiny, would a player ever mathematically recover from the psychological weight of that moment? Or is it somehow better to be immortalized in history for a spectacular, confident failure than to have quietly lost a game no one remembers?